homesteading to prepping to common horse sense, we are College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Well, today I've been working in the garden, and it's almost dinner time, but it's not hardly time to go in yet. Crystal made deer. We've had deer the last 2 nights, and we're having it again tonight. Tonight we're having deer cube steak and tomatoes, which is awesome stuff. But anyway, I just thought I'd take a minute and talk to you about my philosophy of gardening and my philosophy of homesteading and why we do the things we do and how we do them. Now, it would be wrong to not pull in stuff from historical stuff. My grandparents on both sides had a little homestead of their own. They grew most of what they ate. One was more sustainable than the other. Got a fly. Decided it's his turn. So I was raised to what I call an Appalachian lifestyle. That means that you work at your job during the day, and in the evening you come home and you run a little homestead. You garden, and big gardens, not little gardens, big gardens. And you raise most of what you eat. They raise pigs and cattle and milk cows and things like that. Now, I don't have pigs or milk cows or goats yet. When I came here in 2015, my plan was to have all that. Well, it took me longer to renovate the house. Are you going to get gone? It took me longer to renovate the house than I thought it would. But, you know, I'm 60. And yesterday, a good friend of mine died. And I think about that, and that figures into your philosophy. And the day before that, another friend died. One friend, the friend that died yesterday, he was 70, so he was 10 years older than me. And the friend that died 2 days ago was 59, so he was a year younger than me. And you think about those things and the frailty of human beings, and my grandparents gardened by the signs. They raised what they ate. They did all kinds of things like that. But for me, the philosophy is a little different. Crystal and I are financially secure. Okay, if something happened, let's say the banking system collapsed and my pension disappeared. Could happen, you know, anything can happen. Well, then I know how to raise stuff. I know how to garden. I know how to raise pigs. I know how to raise cattle. I know how to do all of that stuff. So I'm not as worried as some folks might be. Our home is paid for out completely. So if something happened, the kids could all come here. So there's a security in that. And my philosophy has been to stay out of debt. As a young man, I wasn't able to do that. You know, it's one of those things that you live on what you make and you spend what you make. That's the way poor people are. People who make less than $100,000 a year, they don't know what savings is. They don't know how to save. I think Crystal and I made $102,000 combined 1 year. And after that, no, nowhere near that. But we're financially secure now, and we are not, go away. We are not in a bind. If I didn't raise anything in this garden tomorrow, there would be food on my table. And food enough for 2, 3, 4, 5 people, 6. So my kids wouldn't have to worry. But I raise a garden for me. And that might sound a little funny, But I love to garden. I love to eat. Of course, I'm a big guy. Means I love to eat. And life is short. My dad died at 67, so I've got 7 years. If I die the same time he did. So, I'm hoping I don't do that. Dad had black lung and died of cancer, so. And had colon cancer too. Took him out. Anyway, I garden because it's my way of communing with God. A lot of people think they have to go to church and all that stuff, and communing with other people is important. But I commune with God right here in my garden. He lives here on this homestead. It's one of those things that when I'm out here in the garden, I'm not listening to a phone. There's no radio. There's no TV. There's no distraction. There's no news. All of that stuff is back there. And in the garden, I'm right here doing exactly what I want to do. So for us, our philosophy, my philosophy, is that being on a little homestead like this, raising your own food, that's ancillary to God speaking to you on your homestead. I know you say, well, there's this, that, and the other. I hear it. Whether or not it's physical voice don't matter. I hear it. And you can take it for however you want to take it. I've got a lot of friends that are atheists. I'm a physicist, okay? And everybody thinks that physicists are atheists. Well, physicists are folks who look at the way things are, and they have to have proof before they'll say that that's a thing. And with the thought of a divine being, it's almost impossible to have proof. Okay? It's almost impossible to have tangible proof. Now, some people say, well, I know it. But you don't have tangible scientific proof that can be redone. Okay? Can be tested. There is no test. So, either you come to God as a spiritual creature, because you can't come to Him as a scientific creature. For me, as far as how did God create the world, well, it really don't matter. Scientists have their way of looking at it. Creationists have their way of looking at it. But I think the scientists are probably right, but God may have directed it. Or He set it in motion, or put all of the things that were required for life and stood back and watched it go. Because we don't know. We don't know the nature of this universe. And I think about those things, and our universe could be one of multiple universes. If we looked at string theory, which is a physics theory, we could be one of thousands, an infinite number of universes, maybe 11 or 12 only, or maybe an infinite number. Nobody knows. There are so many unanswered questions in science that you could write a book just on how many unanswered questions there are. But every time we find the answer to a question, we find 2 or 3 new questions. Well, out here in the field, my answers to questions are simple. Should I water today? Should I plant today? What should I plant today? What am I going to do if my tomatoes don't come in? Who around here has extra tomato plants? Simple things that don't require me to delve into that theoretical background that I was raised on. So, my philosophy of garden is very simple. You garden to get closer to God, nature, and life. You can live your life really fast. As a college administrator, I live my life pretty fast sometimes. There were times when I had 5 phone calls on hold and 15 people lined up to see me to ask this question or that question or this budget or that budget or all of that stuff. Well, I don't have none of that anymore. I just have a little garden and serenity. You know, you can have an acre and serenity. You know, an acre and serenity. It's all you have to have. So before you start thinking, well, I have to have this or I have to have that, it means that sometimes Crystal and I don't get the stuff we want all the time. Okay? It means we don't get the stuff we want all the time. I had a doctor friend of mine. He was talking and he said he wasn't able to retire yet. And he said, how in the world was I able to retire at my age? And I told him, I said, well, I said, you have to be willing to live on less. I said, if you can live on, and I told him how much money I was drawing every month. And I said, if you can live on that, then you could retire too. I said, I bet you've got that much saved up in your 401k where you could retire too. He said, but I can't live on that. I said, yeah, it's all in your values. He may work till he's 80 because he can't live on that. Well, I can live on it. So that means that sometimes Crystal and I don't get the things we want. Well, you get the things you need. That's what I'm worried about, the things I need. So far, we've been able to come up with the things we need and get most of the things we want. And some things that we want, we have to wait and save for. You know, there's nothing wrong with saving your money to get the things that you need. It's just one of those things. You can save, save, save. So that's my philosophy of homesteading and gardening. Homesteading is just a method of communing with my maker. Gardening is part of that. I hope to get animals and commune more like that, and have more deer on the property and commune more with them. You know, they taste awful good when you're communing with them. Now, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, philosophizing kind of thing, we do it every week, sometimes once, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead that week. Now, if you hit the little bell when you come to the channel, it'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload every Sunday. Now, with that being said, it's time for me to get on to the next thing and go in and grab a deer steak.